everyone, and welcome to the Burgess podcast, the show where we are opening up conversations about life at sea, discussing hot topics within the industry, as well as offering mental health support and promoting well-being for crew. We also have our very own in-house recruitment team, so if you or anyone you know is currently looking for a new position, please send your updated CV to recruitment@burgessyachts.com or check out our recruitment posts on Instagram @Burgess Yacht Crew. Hi everyone. Today we're talking to Ben Willows from UKSA, a maritime youth charity and a beacon of excellence in training. UKSA's mission is truly inspiring as they not only provide world-class training but also ignite a passion for the sea in children and young people. Today we will discuss UKSA's commitment to equipping the next generation with valuable life skills, as well as how their cadetship programme is opening up doors for those from disadvantaged backgrounds and creating pathways for young minds to thrive in maritime careers. Hi Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good, Lorena, thank you. Yeah, not too bad at all.
Really excited to be talking to you about the amazing work that UKSA does, both on the cadetship programme and also on the charity work that you do. But can you just share a little bit about the UKSA, how it started, what you do, and what inspired the organisation?
Yeah, okay. So let's go right back to the beginning, as you say, Lorena. So we're 36 years old. We were founded by a fantastic family headed up by Noel and Sylvia Lister, the Lister family. Those of us who are probably into our 40s and beyond will easily remember the company MFI, the furniture company. Noel Lister founded that company, entrepreneur behind Finding MFI, very successful entrepreneur and business person, loved his sailing and sailed passionately in the Solent through Admiral's Cups, and he and Sylvia and the family did a couple of circumnavigations on around the world on some of their bigger yachts, which were Royal Hoysman built actually. And when Noel sold MFI in about 1986-87, he desperately wanted to try and set up an organisation. I think originally he looked at maybe at sail training, sort of on square riggers, etc. But he was very well advised and ended up coming across the centre where I'm currently sat, which was the National Sailing Centre in Cowes, which was being closed down by the Margaret Thatcher government because they couldn't afford to run it. And Noel came in with Sylvia. They bought the National Sailing Centre, the site and the land and marina and everything we've got around us here, and founded the charity UK Sailing Academy. And really what Noel and Sylvia were super passionate about was providing a space where young children and people could come who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to learn about the joys of sailing, water sports. And I think originally they sort of set it up originally as around a place where schools or groups could come for residential stays and children experiencing the first time on the water, as I say. And it soon then went on to Noel thinking about how can we get more people to come and crew on yachts like I've got, because he always found finding crew an absolute nightmare. And UKSA soon developed professional yacht master programs, professional water sports instructor training programs, and founded these two core pillars of what UKSA does, which is essentially water-based adventures for children coming on school groups or their first trips away from home to experience getting on the water, and professional education and training for jobs in maritime. And a large proportion of that are young people who want to train and get into super yachting, but not solely. We train for sectors like the workboat sectors, so supporting on offshore wind farms or tugboats or small ferry operators. We do a huge amount of water sports instructor training for people going and working in resorts or big operational adventure centres like UKSA. So we have those two core pillars of our work. And as we have about 11,000 to 12,000 students a year, young people coming through our organisation, a significant proportion of those are having their very first experience on the water, right the way through to people who are doing their professional officer to watch training and becoming captains and officers of some of the largest yachts in the world. So there is nowhere else in the world that has that breadth of programmes and pathway, and all down to the vision and legacy of Noel and Sylvia Lister that founded it 36 years ago.
Fabulous. And such a, like you said earlier, such a fabulous opportunity for children to access an industry that they may not, and we'll talk about the charities later, but may not have the opportunity to join ordinarily.
Yeah, that's right. And, a major part of our work, as I said a moment ago, is reaching out into those communities, those schools, many of which are from very high areas of deprivation and poverty, and providing them funding and access to getting down here and getting away from the postcode area that they're growing up in and experience something that they would never, ever have sight of. And I touched on a moment ago the sort of breadth of programs from a child's first experience right the way through to officer training. And that's the fundamental part of UKSA that I think makes us different from every other organisation, in that, you know, we really want a child to come for their first experience, as I say, might be from an inner city or an area of coastal deprivation, getting inspired about being on the water, and then understanding that there are pathways and programs through from them being teenagers through to becoming 16 to 18, FE programs, further education programs, right the way through to professional yacht masters and onto cadetships, and then into employment. And actually, you know, we always say, you know, I talk about this a lot, providing a child a great experience on the water is fantastic. It can be transformational. Many of us can probably remember our first school trip away, and that's fantastic, and they are lasting memories. But actually, being able to take that young child through development and education courses, structured professional training into a job in maritime, that's the bit where UKSA gets the real impact. Because it's not just a one-off experience, it's all about supporting them through a number of different pathways and touch points. Ultimately, for us, it's about getting them into a job in maritime.
Yeah. So, which leads us on beautifully, because we work with super yachts. So can we talk specifically about the super yacht cadet program, and, you know, what are the key skills that you aim to instill in the cadets, and how can the yachts help? Because obviously sea time is a part of the training, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the cadetship runs probably over about 4 years. And where we start, really, they're with us for about 7 months to begin with. Their first, what we call their phase 1 of training, is about 7 months of training. And going back to your first question, what are we trying to instill? Well, I think the key part really is about the word we use a lot, which is about professionalism. We're trying to instill the expectations of service. We know what the actual job of going and working is. Probably your first entry job on a large yacht is going to be as a deck crew. That's not just about, I mean, it's almost like a given, really. We're training the seamanship, the safety. They're the fundamental pillars of all of UKSA's training. So we're trying to make sure the cadets are as well trained as they can be within 7 months. So they'll all come out with a professional, commercially endorsed yachtmaster qualification and all the other add-on ancillary quals that they need to go working on board, from tender operating, PWC, all the sea survival STTW stuff. But beyond those hard skills, it's actually about getting these young people understanding about what being a professional in the industry is about, what the job expectations are, as I said a moment, the awareness of what good service looks like for the owners or guests, etc. So they're as ready as they can be when they leave us after 7 months to go and get their first entry-level job into the industry. I think going back to your second question is what the boats can do for us, the yachts can do, the employers can do for us, is understand that, you know, what we're trying to do with the cadets is bring new people from varying different backgrounds into the sector. You know, we hear consistently that finding good crew, retaining crew is one of the biggest challenges. Well, the reason we have a world-leading super yacht cadetship over 4 years is that recognition that actually, you know, you don't become an experienced deckhand from day one. You have to have people who are willing to give you that entry-level opportunity. And then the cadetship is about, once they've gone and worked for 9, 12 months in their first job, they've got that sea time, they can then come back to UKSA for what we call their second phase of training, which is all about them working through their MCA Officer to Watch qualifications before they then go back out into the sector, back into employment for their second work phase, to give them enough sea time to enable them to come back, finish off their MCA Officer to Watch all qualifications to become an officer. And we've structured that sandwich course so that it is a combination of skills training, qualifications and work experience to get that sea time to enable them to become officers. What we really need from the sector is for yachts, owners, captains, management companies to be supportive of the cadets, one, in giving them their first entry-level job, and two, allowing them to break and come back and work through their second phase of training, through their officer qualification, so that they can then go back out, get the sea time to enable them to become officers. So it is about that structured, holistic view over a 4-year period about bringing new people in. And really the support is yachts and captains, as I say, being aware that these guys and girls are on a 4-year programme and they need support to help develop their career as you would in any other job or industry if you were working from a point of entry right the way through to a senior position.
And how much sea time do they need?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, it varies. So they need to have, what we say. There's the specific sea time requirements they need for their officer of the watch and their oral. But during that 4 year cadetship, really, we're sort of looking at two to 2.5 years of sea time. That's really important. And it does vary, doesn't it? Because some of the yachts, sea time could be tied to a dock in Monaco or on Tees. But actually, we know that as all we know, the best sea time is when actually the boats are active and they're out either on charters or they're on passage or they're taking the owner to various locations. And I think that's a really important part for us. We're always looking for boats that hopefully are active and can give the cadets and the crew some really good experience.
And I'm guessing that it's a good opportunity for yachts captains, chief officers, chief engineers, and help develop the skills that they're looking for in the crew that they're, you said earlier, finding good crew is, hard to find. So they can help develop the skills that they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what I was touching on in terms of having that buy-in and recognition that, good experienced crew don't fall out the sky into captains and officers' laps. They have to be developed. And what we've got with our cadets, and we have about 40 cadets on program at the minute in terms of on their first phase of training. I mean, out in the sector, there's a few hundred of them. We're looking to increase our intake to 50 next year. So we have good, well-trained people looking to come into the sector, and hopefully what we want from captains and officers is that recognition. Actually, if we just invest a bit of time into these people, we start to indicate and show them and demonstrate what good looks like in terms of what the job expectations are, and then we release them back so they can do further training. In 2, 3, 4 years' time, you've got a really good cohort of people coming through who are either qualified at officer level or very close to being qualified at officer level, and then can start imparting their experience onto the next set of cadets coming through. And I think, if we're serious about growing good quality crew who are well qualified, well trained, and want to forge a long-term career in the sector, and I think that's the other point I'd make about the cadets. They're investing a lot of time and money into a 4-year development program. They're taking this career and sector very seriously. It's not like they're just looking for a 5-day STCW qualification and wanting to walk up and down the dock to get some summer work or a gap year. These are serious candidates that are investing a lot of time and money to develop a professional career. And I think we need to get that message out so that captains and owners and officers, as I say, really recognise that and help support their development during that sort of initial period, really.
And you touched on this earlier, there is a noticeable shortage of crew coming into the industry. Yachts are getting bigger, there are more and more cruise ships also getting larger. So, there is a real need to start boosting the seafarer numbers.
Without doubt, it's all we hear, isn't it? In the publications and the feedback from the sector is that, there is a shortage of people. I think there has been, and I guess there will always continue to be those that just want to maybe do it for a year or 2 years. Maybe it's a gap year, maybe it's to earn a bit of money to go travelling, all of those things. But actually, people who are really serious about making this a long-term career, there is a shortage. It's why things like our professional yacht master and cadetship programs, etc., are so important, because it is people who are investing in their future and really wanting to take this sector seriously and be in it long term. But that requires the boats to have a bit of flexibility to allow them to come back to do some further training so they can progress on their careers. So, yeah, and I think the other big aspect, Lorena, I'd say that UKSA are doing is, we've got 40 cadets on programme. About 70% of them have received funding to come on that course. So that's our charitable funding, that's money from other partners that are funding these young people that don't have the financial means to access this type of training, but have the desire to do it, the motivation to do it, the skills to do it. And isn't that fantastic that we're broadening access to these young people that wouldn't otherwise be able to get into this sector or access this type of training by providing that funding? And that's really important, because the reality is that if you're wanting to train into this sector, it isn't inexpensive. If you want to try and become and sit on a watch and have a yacht master qualification or tender operating, these are technical courses and they're not necessarily cheap. But having that funding available to broaden that access, that diversity of young people coming through into the sector is hugely important.
And actually, that's another key point, isn't it? Is diversity. We talk a lot in the industry about the lack of diversity in the maritime industry.
Yeah.
This program and the charity work that you're doing is opening up these doors to more diverse group of people.
It is. I mean, for sure. I touched on before the sort of pathway programs that UKSA supports and runs. If you take our Sea Change Foundation program, for example, that's specifically designed for teenagers, or sort of 15 to 18-year-olds, to come down to UKSA predominantly during school holiday periods, because for school holidays, for many young people is a really difficult time, especially those from areas of underserved communities, deprivation. So bringing them down to UKSA for periods to, one, hopefully have a great time, get on the water, learn some new skills. But the key to that programme is about signposting to them the education and careers pathways that are available in maritime. Now, most of these young people are coming from really, really difficult lives. They won't have left the sort of postcode 3 mile area that they've grown up in, literally never left. So actually coming down to Southampton, getting a ferry, coming over to the Isle of Wight, these are, pretty big experiences for them. And then when they're with us, they get to go on the water. But most importantly, they hear from us and industry experts about what working in maritime is about, what you need to do to get into super yachting, for example. And, we are starting to see, so this year we ran about 500 places on our Sea Change Foundation programme. That's fully funded, fantastically supported from, people in the super yacht sector and donors and foundations in the UK, providing the funding to give these young people this opportunity. And then already this year, we've got sort of about 40 of those young people who've gone on to join our further education or cadetship programmes that over time now will start coming through into the super yacht sector. And as I said at right at the beginning, these young people have got all the skills and talent. They have just, they've just had a very difficult start, which many of us, have been fortunate enough not to have had. And they don't have the social economic opportunities that many of us have had. And this programme particularly signposts and gives them an idea about what we can do in terms of funding, training and education to get into this sector. So I think, over time, we're playing a big part. We've got a big commitment to providing this opportunity for young people, broadening that access, broadening diversity into the sector for sure.
And I think a really special part of your programme is you also provide ongoing mentoring for the cadets, welfare support, and I guess guiding them on issues such as bullying and harassment, and any issues that they may come across on board a yacht.
We do. We've got all the cadets or anyone on our professional training courses really have mentoring support. But you touched on there, the welfare support that we provide is absolutely fantastic. The team here they do truly amazing work. I mean, it has a transformational difference onto young people's lives, the work that we're doing, and I think that support's always accessible to when they go out into the sector. If they've got a problem or they've observed something or they're worried about something, whatever that may be, they can pick up the phone, they can drop a WhatsApp message, they can get in contact with us. But actually, a lot of it is about prevention as well, Rennie. So it's about teaching them a lot about mental health awareness. We do a lot of mental health for seafarers training on all of the courses. So making them aware of the environments they're going into, living in close quarters, all of those pressures that come about by living in close quarters on a yacht, for example. We do a lot of work and preparation with them before they even go out there, so they know what's coming. And it's one of the reasons they're here training on relatively small sailing yachts, going up and down the Solent and sailing around the Channel and over to France and these places to learn those skills about what being in a close environment, what working as part of a team is all about, and feeding back and using those learning opportunities to get them as prepared as possible, really.
Fabulous. So can you tell us a little bit, you've touched on them earlier, but a bit more about the charity work that you do? I mean, the ones that I've specifically looked at are Sea Change Foundation and Leave No Child Behind. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so I'll start on Leave No Child Behind, because that's really at the sort of the very core of what UKSA does in terms of our pathway programme. So, what we found, especially since the pandemic, Lorena, I mean, we were doing this before the pandemic, but it's more than double. It's threefold now, the demand. It's very, very sad. What we find is schools who are interested in coming, would like to come to UKSA, more often than not don't have the funding to bring all of the children that they have in their class or year group, whatever cohort they're looking to bring. So we have a very specific fund called Leave No Child Behind, which means that, I'll give you an example. If a school wants to bring a cohort of 50 children for us on a residential trip, it might be that between them and the parents, they can only afford to bring 30 or 35 of them. That Leave No Child Behind programme specifically would fund the last few places, the last 15 places, to make sure no one gets left at school. Because I can't tell you how many school trips would come or previously would come, where they would leave 5, 6, 7, 10 students at school because they don't have the financial means to come, where all of the kids that do get to come and have a fantastic time. Now, isn't that completely the wrong way around? So the Leave No Child Behind programme is so important. I mean, next year we will have increased the funding into there by about threefold, but we need more support. So, if anyone's listening to this and working out in the sector that wants to come and support young people that wouldn't otherwise have the chance, please do get in contact, because it's terribly sad where we're in a social and economic situation in the UK where actually parents and schools can't even afford to send their children on a residential trip, which, as I said right at the beginning of this, most of us can remember the first time we went away with our school. They're lasting memories, good or bad, whatever that may be. But you remember going away and having that experience away from home, probably a little bit of homesickness and experience something, a new sport or discipline that you've never been able to do. They're so important for shaping young people's lives. So that's where the Leave No Child Behind Fund works. The Sea Change Foundation programme, I talked about that a little bit. That's specifically for those young teenagers, many of which will have come to us particularly on a school trip previously when they were younger, providing that experience away from home in the school holidays, teaching them all about what pathways in the maritime sector look like. And again, so I think when we started that programme just in COVID, the first year we funded about 100 places onto that programme. This year we will have funded 500 places. Next year our ambition is to move that towards 800 to 1,000. But again, that each one of those places costs about £500 per go. So it requires a fairly substantial amount of funding, which I and the team work incredibly hard on to raise that funding, either from companies from the super yacht sector or trusts and foundations, individual donors. But yeah, it doesn't happen without that financial support to give to these young people to access this type of experiences, really.
No, it's an important message, isn't it? That ultimately that this is a charity, and you do need that financial support. So for anyone listening who does want to help, they just get in touch with you.
Yeah, please do visit the website. There's links and information there, and how to support us. Get in contact with me or the team, and we'd gladly talk to you about what any type of support could look like. Honestly, it wouldn't matter if it's £5 a month on a direct debit to someone maybe have the means to do much more than that. It all makes a difference.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess as well, some of these children who take part in these charity events, that they would move on to the cadet programme.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and founding principle at UKSA, we're open to everybody, So we're absolutely, at our core, we're about reaching out into those areas and giving those young people a chance, many of which go on to become our full-time education students or onto our professional cadetship, as we said, and are studying absolutely alongside people who have the financial means just to pay and be here for themselves. But what's really important is that the level of service and professional training that we provide is the same. It doesn't matter what your funding source is. But if you come into UKSA to do a professional course, hopefully you get the best tuition, great facilities, a lot of experience, career support into jobs, all of those things, irrespective of how you've been funded to get here.
Well, Ben, I can't thank you and your team enough for everything that you do, because it is so wonderful, the work that you do for these children, the opportunities you give them, and the doors that you open up to them for their future careers is just so important. And also the cadet programs. I mean, we need more crew. I think that's the key message. And this is a great way of helping to shape the future. So thanks so much, Ben.
Thanks, Lorraine. I think the last thing I'd say is, anyone listening to this who's already out working on boats and you're thinking of coming to do further training, your officer training, whatever that may be, please keep us in mind. Many of you will know us anyway, but it's one of the great things about UKSA is that people who are already working in the sector, they might be working on boats for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, come back to do further training, and they can impart their knowledge and meet all of our new students who are coming through. Fantastic way to connect people, and some of the more experienced officers and masters who are coming back to do their officer qualifications quite often end up employing some of our new students because they meet them here in the dining hall or in the canteen or in the bar in the evenings. It's a fantastic environment to meet new people and impart that knowledge and get people into the sector.
When's your next intake?
Intake on the cadetship is in end of March, beginning of April 24.
Okay.
And then there'll be a second intake after the summer, the beginning, middle of September.
So is there still time for March, April, or is...
Absolutely, yeah. And we do 2 intakes now. We historically only used to do one at the sort of start of the next academic year, when universities start, etc. But actually what we found is that doesn't suit everybody. And often people are working in other jobs and feel like they want to do a career change or want to get into this sector, and having to wait a whole year for a start doesn't suit everyone. So we've put a second start on in April, which is already starting to fill up and get some pretty healthy numbers on, which is fantastic. So, if you're interested, please get in contact, drop the team an email or give us a call. We'd love to talk to you.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Ben. And I hope you enjoy the festive season.
Yeah, and you. Thanks so much for having me.